Hey everyone, GamesCon here. I'm here to show you how to do a Technophage Bloom Spreader mission on Legendary difficulty without a Dreadnought. As you can see, it's still pretty early in the game. I haven't really unlocked a lot of things. I have mostly basic gear. Only one of my interceptors is rocking a tier 2 power sword, which does okay damage. I only have it for the 10% chance to crit and 5 damage. So it's not like a game changer. Also, everybody else has just basic gear, basic grenades, and the highest level character I have is level 6, while everybody else is between 4 and 5. So, with just basic gear and basic stuff, it is possible to do the Technophage missions, but I recommend you not try them. If you're gonna try them, you need the following two things before you even try to attempt it. One, don't even think about trying one of these without Gates of Infinity. Two, you need my Rambo build. All other builds that I tried either resulted in a failure or in a complete ass whooping. For those of you that don't know, Rambo is my Honor the Chapter based build, and it's available if you click on the exclamation mark in the top right corner. Technophage missions are difficult by themselves, but a Bloom Spreader Technophage mission is a righteous pain in the ass. So this is how I dealt with this one. I start off the match same way as I usually do, and that's by securing as many of these fissures as I can. I'm gonna fast forward some of the movement stuff so the video doesn't last forever. So, as you can see, the Archaeotech cache is all the way to the left. So, I'm gonna avoid that patrol I saw in the beginning. Also, the reason I don't think these things are worth it is because that Archaeotech cache will award me only 2 Archaeotech points. If you either gave those Mechanicus guys 15 servitors or 2 requisition, you get a pretty decent buff in how fast you earn Archaeotech for them. And that, early on, before you have the Dread, that's more than enough to unlock everything on the Tech Marines and everybody else. So you don't need to grab these Archaeotech cache early on. Later on, the Dreadnought, some of his stuff costs a little bit of money, or Archaeotech. So then it becomes necessary also because later on you can't just ignore these Archaeotech or Technophage missions. Here, notice that I left the Bloomspawn alone. That's because I do not want to get into fights if I can avoid it. You want to reserve as much willpower as you can for fights that matter, and that 2 extra green seed is just not worth it. Green seed is the most abundant seed and you don't have to worry about it ever. So just ignore it and just save your willpower for the big fights, because there are going to be a lot of big fights. One of the main reasons that Technophage missions are so difficult is because not only they spawn higher number of enemies, they also are more well equipped, they have better mutations. The Meltagun Plague Marines have +6 armor mutations, which gives them 9 armor to begin with every time you face them. And those guys are brutal. Remember, I predicted that during the first announcement when they announced the new enemies, that the Meltagun Plague Marines were going to be a problem, and they are. The Meltagun Plague Marines and the bell-holding Chaos Champions, I'm forgetting the name right now, those guys are the 2 biggest problems in the game that make Archaeophage missions difficult, and that make a lot of my builds obsolete. When I put together the big guide where I'm gonna talk about all the changes that happen throughout the game, I'll talk about that in there. But right now, I saw there's way 2 enemies there. They're right next to that tree, and I do not want them constantly healing while getting AoE down by that tree. Even though this is a Rambo build that I'm running, it's still a melee build, and just meleeing around the tree is a bad idea. Also, one thing different from the traditional Rambo build about this build is that I'm running a Purgator instead of an Apothecary. That's because my Apothecary is only level 1 and does not have the skills or the abilities that make them such a good candidate for the Rambo build. So until then, I'm just running the Purgator to add extra damage. As y'all can already see, these guys have a lot more buffs than they usually do whenever they appear in the regular missions. So here, I'm trying to assess how to go in right now. So the issue is, a lot of them didn't come as far forward as I wanted them to. So
Yes, Commander.
now I might have to go in, so I might attack the ones in the back first and then move forward. But yeah, because the issue is I don't have a healer, so any damage I take is permanent damage. You know, I can't get that back. I did equip 2 of my Justicars with both the willpower orbs and the Medicare servitors, so that will negate some of the damage I take. But at this point, I can't wait too long for them to. I can't wait too much before I go in. That's because the warp surge is almost at 90%, and if I am still in combat while the warp surge occurs, it's usually very bad. That's one of the major reasons Archeophage missions are so difficult, is because the warp surge buffs that they did to all the warp surge effects are really, really difficult to deal with in Legendary. The biggest one in Archeotech missions are the Technophage missions, are the Technophage reinforcements, which attack the same turn they deploy. So in other missions, you'll see a portal open, the guys will come out, and they'll redeploy, and then you get to move your guys, and then they act. Not in Archeophage, Technophage missions. In Technophage missions, they come out, and if any of you guys are within range, they will attack that very turn. This makes Technophage missions very difficult, and why you gotta make sure you... Here, I messed up where I completely forgot about these 2 guys, and I thought I could move out into cover, and yeah, I took 2 Melta shots to the face. Meltas are a lot more deadly against people with armor. They don't hit guys like these guys that hard, but the crack grenades on those guys are what makes them a problem. Those crack grenades destroy your cover, they do armor damage and health damage, and it's just always bad to get hit by. And they usually always prioritize those, and they have a single target scenario here. So at this point, I saw that portal open, and I'm like, oh man, it's Rambo time, it's go time. So warp charge right here. I was debating it, I decided not to, because I need to save it for other fights. And here, another one. On top of the Technophage reinforcements, they did a lot of changes too, and added a whole lot of different warp surges, which completely changed the game for me, at least. Before, I ignored warp surges, because the Rambo build and the Wintern Purifier build were so powerful that, whatever. If they got the warp surge, it didn't matter. But now I have to look out for warp surge. And now it is absolutely crucial. Like, this here, I fucked up in the beginning and let that warp surge occur. But after this, I will go out of my way to make sure that warp surges happen out of combat. Because out of combat warp surges are different than in combat warp surges. In combat warp surges are like that, and one of the new one that like wrecks almost every single one of my builds is the one that blocks teleports for 5 turns. That's an in combat warp surge, and I'll talk more about it in my guide, where I talk about how it affects all the different builds, and I'll basically do a major guide about all the changes. This one is just for the Technophages missions, because it seems like a lot of people are having difficulty, especially considering these things start popping up really early in the game. And you don't have a Dreadnought, you don't get a Dreadnought for at least another 100 days or so. So,
yes, sir.
yeah, until then,
For the Empire.
I'll go into much more detail about all the warp surges, but the two main ones that you have to watch out for, especially with the Rambo build, is that Technophage reinforcement and the blocking to the warps. What is it? Teleportation. All the teleportation blocking.
Purge complete.
Here, basically, I went full Rambo, just gave all the points to my interceptor and just murdered everything, and now these guys are here. And this is what I meant. Like, if you're in range of them, they will attack them. Yeah. This is what makes Technophage so deadly. Like, they'll attack the very turn that they're summoned. So they move there. Luckily, I pulled everybody forward and not got shot by anybody. But now my freaking partner is very exposed in a lot of problems. So now I gotta make a decision whether I take out the tree or go for these guys. Instead, I decided to go for these guys. It's rare for me to use this. This is why I love the silencer, because this thing can do some big deeps, you know, really easy in a very large area. Side cannon is great, but just the range and utility and AoE of the silencer is just next level, man. So, especially after all these changes, I don't think so. If you run my Bulletstorm build, which is my supporting fire build, or any sort of supporting fire type comp that you try to run, I highly advise to use the silencer on one of you guys, whoever triggers the supporting fire of your interceptors. To have, yeah, so get your Purgator to have a silencer and use that silencer to trigger supporting fire. So here I decided to abandon the tree, and you know this is a Bloomspawn mission, and I haven't grabbed a fissure in a minute, so I am spending a lot of turns just dealing with these Technophage reinforcements. I got lucky this time that it was like easier Technophage reinforcements to deal with, but I still took a lot of damage. My interceptor is now definitely going to be wounded by the end of this. Even if I heal him up, by the end of the mission, he's gonna be wounded. And being wounded, especially when you're only like level 5s and 6, is a big deal. You get -10 penalty. And when you're 5 and 6, like, my guy's health is, what? 17. Yeah, -10. That's 7 health that he'll be walking around with whenever I go to take him on any other mission. So, and that'll last for like 30 days. That's 30 days where I risked getting my interceptor killed in 2 shots. So that's why I think Technophage missions aren't worth it. Or if you're trying to do them, make sure you have a backup squad, because whatever squad that you're gonna send into the Technophage mission, without the Dread, with the Dread, there are a lot more manageable. But without the Dread, if you send in a squad, even if you win, that squad's coming out beaten like crazy. And will be basically out of commission until like you get them high enough level. So now I'm trying to carefully wear this thing down. I don't know why I did the shots, because they did absolutely nothing. So spend some more willpower, because that was a pretty precarious situation. Luckily the interceptor kills so fast that he can get the willpower back really easily. I reloaded because I went the supporting fire route first instead of the melee discipline first. And that's because right now, because my weapons aren't that great, I can dish out more damage with supporting fire than I can with my melee weapons on the interceptor. So that's why I went with the supporting fire route rather than the melee discipline route earlier on. And I'm just trying to weather this thing down, and then I was also trying to level up my Purgator because he's a little bit behind. Also move him up a little bit before I start shooting, because I want, you know, I want to make sure they're all close together when the turn resets, when everything dies. Like I said, you can't waste a lot of time doing other stuff. I'm not gonna go back and grab that Bloomseed pod that I left in the back, because you just don't have time. I'm down to only 5 turns already, and I still have probably another patrol to fight, and like to grab the Archaeotech and kill the Bloom Spreader. So I'm just going to skip this movement card, skippity skip. And as you see, I got up there just in the nick of time as the patrol came up. You don't have to kill all the patrols. You can outmaneuver and just sneak around them. Like I did there. Like, there's no way I'm gonna fight that, because I will run out of willpower before I run out of all the patrols to kill. And every mission is such a problematic mission in these technophages that you really can't afford to spend your willpower willy-nilly. You saw how much willpower I just took out in the first fight. That was Bloomspawn. Also, I was really high on my Warp Surge at 55%. If I fought those guys and even used 1 or 2 abilities, it would have popped, and then I would have to face another Technophage reinforcement, and that would have cost even more turn and time. So keep an eye on patrols and get out of their way and avoid them if possible. Sometimes it is better to take them out because you don't want them to accidentally come in behind you and attack you from the rear. At that point, game over. You might as well restart the mission or just admit defeat and just take the losses and move on. But yeah, right now I'm very carefully moving forward because I know there are like 2 patrols. There was 1 patrol behind me, but there's also a patrol up here in this middle path, up these stairs. So I don't want to aggro both of them simultaneously. Also, I want to try to spot them and then move away.
Taking position.
The reason I want to do that is because the Warp Surge is really high, and I'd rather the Warp Surge occur when I am out of combat and not in combat. Like I said before, out of combat Warp Surge is not so bad. In combat Warp Surge is living nightmares. So avoid them. So I think, yeah. Still don't have eyesight of them, which makes me really nervous right now. That's because, like, I move them out in the open. If they're in their movement phase, they're about to move, and I still haven't spotted them, they might move into a range where I've placed my guys and then spot them. And right now I'm at 80%, which means if they spot me at 80%, I am effed, because that will trigger another Technophage reinforcements or lock out my teleport for 5 turns. And I really cannot afford the teleport lockout for 5 turns because there are only 5 turns left that I have. Luckily, they were really far away and I didn't notice them. That's why I was just like tiptoeing towards them. Now I finally noticed them. The Warp Surge took place. Now I don't have to worry about them. I am running really low on turns, so I'm deciding whether I should just rush towards one of these fissures and decide to against on getting the one on the right, because if you get that one on the right, you will aggro the Bloom Spreader and the squads around there and all the reinforcements that come with the Bloom Spreader. So I went this route because this route allows me to not only avoid that, but also grab the Archaeotech cache that's on the left side. As you can see, it's a lot of work right now. And like I said before, I just abandoned the Bloom Pod. I was like, I don't have time to spare for these kind of shenanigans. Teleported my Rambo in, my Interceptor in, but I call him Rambo because he's doing all the killing. He's a one-man army. Once you give him all these buffs, he takes care of stuff, things, you know? You just drop him in and he, like Rambo, you just drop him in behind enemy lines and he destroys everything. Alright, so begin by burning off the supporting fire stuff. Yeah. See, this is why I like the silencer. Look from how far I was able to trigger supporting fire. Silencer and supporting fire works really well together. That gets rid of 2. I still have 4 more. God, so many enemies spawned in Technophage missions. It's crazy. Yeah, no, 5 more. Oh god, I forgot I had 5 more to kill. Yeah, even with the Rambo build, because I don't have the Ruthless Precision, which refunds AP, on crits. I didn't go that route because I don't have any crit chance items yet.
The enemy
So,
is wounded.
yeah, they reduce the drop rate of tier 2 items a lot. So you have to upgrade your army quite a bit before you start getting decent gear. And tier 1 gear, I still, even with this reduced drop rate, I still believe tier 1 gear is just a waste of requisition. So, yeah, I didn't purchase any of it, but man, it is rough. And that's why I went with the Story Fire build or like ability, because
Your command.
it just doesn't, it doesn't need any equipments. Here, because I only have limited amount of points, all I'm doing is cutting off their weapons and then moving on. These guys aren't much of a threat. The reason I didn't move all the way and kill that guy is because I was afraid if I moved onto the left side of this guy before I cut off his arm, I would trigger the Bloom Spreader. Remember, the Bloom Spreader is right next to me on the left. So I just avoided that. But as for everybody else, I just decided to cut their arms, like their weapons off. That's the best way to deal with cultists. They only do 1 damage in melee. So if you're running low on action points, and you there's so many cultists, I don't know what to do. Do this. Just cut off their arms and move on. They don't have melee weapons, so they can't attack you when you move away from them. But you can attack them when they move away from you. So that's one advantage of having melee. That's another advantage of melee over range. If you have melee weapons, people can't just move away from you. So I killed everything, but now I'm gonna make sure I kill this guy because, again, it's a Bloom Spreader mission. And if you know, Bloom Spreader missions only occur when corruption is like around 4 or 5, and when corruption is 4 or 5, your warp surge increases every turn by 20 to 25%. So you only have like 2 or 3 turns to kill these guys before you get hit by another warp surge. Unless you kill them without using a willpower, which is not possible on Technophage missions because there's so many enemies. You don't have enough skill or damage abilities to do that. See, right there, the Bloom Spreader is right there. If I aggro that, the game is over. All 4 of these guys are gonna die. There's no hope for victory. So I just avoid the fissure and just gonna go ahead and pray with just 4 turns left on the Bloom Spreader mission. I've never had this much difficulty on Bloom Spreader missions before in my entire time playing this game, as I did when I tried the Technophage mission. It just dials everything up to an 11, and I gotta say, I love it. I love it. It truly made my builds challenge a lot of my builds. I always thought I didn't enjoy Rambo, even though the Rambo build is the most efficient build in the game. I hated playing it because in the old version of the game, it was really boring. It was very brain dead. In the old version, if I put that many points onto that guy right there, on the Rambo interceptor, he would just destroy everything in 1 turn, just kill everybody. But on these Technophage missions, I gotta be careful. Also, I gotta keep an eye on warp surge because nothing counters teleport-based builds harder than that warp surge that locks out teleports for 5 turns. And you can't wait that out on especially on Bloom Spreader missions. You can't wait that out. You don't have 5 turns to just spend just lollygagging. You can't lollygag. Lollygagging is illegal, you know? Oh, is that loitering? Anyway, whatever. Yeah, so again, time to go full Rambo. Dive in. Be careful. I made sure the warp surge occurred before I fought these guys. That way I have some breathing room to spend willpower, and I go ahead. But I am down to just 3 turns, and I have only that 1 fissure. And even though I'm doing a lot better than my first attempt at a Technophage mission, I'm still not out of the clear, because unlike other Technophage missions, which usually occur on Bloomspawns and stuff, Bloomspreader, when you see the Bloomspreader, they instantly spawn multiple reinforcements. First off, they have a very large group of people defending them. And on Technophage missions, the reinforcements they summon are Technophage reinforcements. Meaning, as soon as they pop out of that portal, they're gonna attack you. So, basically, if you don't one-shot the Bloomspreader in a Technophage missions instantly without a Dreadnought, you are dead. You lose the game. Because there's no way you're gonna survive the assault from the massive horde that are defending the Bloomspreader. Or like the reinforcements that are gonna just pop out. There's just no way. It's game over. That's why, like, just avoid Technophage missions until you unlock the Dreadnought. Speed up your campaign just so that you can unlock the Dreadnought faster. But until then, just avoid Technophage missions because it's possible to win them, but it's so much effort and the payoff is so little that it just, like, you feel like, why did I stress out so much and put myself through so much hardship for just 2 measly architects? You know, it's just not worth it. So, again, Rambo, pretty simple. Buff up the Rambo, go and kill. Choose targets wisely. Make sure you burn. Another reason why I brought the supporting fire, the Purgator instead of the Apothecary is because the Purgator can trigger supporting fire a lot easier, like this. Alright. And now I was able to kill him. I will... And now I will be able to grab the Architect. I'm gonna try rush and grab that fissure before I fight the Bloomspreader. I have 2 turns, so in 1 turn, I have to like take it out in 1 turn. There's like no ifs, buts, or what. And the only comp that can take it out in 1 turn is the Rambo. The Bulletstorm build also works. It's one of the other early game builds, but not on this mission. I actually ran this mission 3 times, and the first 2 times was with my Bulletstorm build. For those of you that don't know, Bulletstorm is my supporting fire-based build.
What is your will?
And both times they just got wrecked. They're just not tanky enough. Like, the Justicars, that 2 armor doesn't seem like a lot, but it helps a lot. Especially the fact that most of the Marines and stuff do like 3 damage. So here, see, I just waited for the surge to go away because I didn't want to get hit by some crazy surge when I actually exposed the Bloomspreader, and now I'd revealed the Bloomspreader. You can see, look how many more enemies there are. There's a crawler, there's a light crawler, there are like 4 heavy gunners and a plague marine, and boom, here comes the...
Nurgle will not give up this ground so easily. Destroy that Bloomspawn now.
And there's the reinforcement. Pop right out, and there are 3 more left. So you cannot grind through this fight. Maybe with the Dreadnought you can, but otherwise you cannot. See, again, like I said, Gates of Infinity. This is what you save the Gates of Infinity for. If you use Gates of Infinity for any other purpose other than this, then you lose the mission. There's no way you can kill that. And you know why you lose the mission? Because unlike in regular Bloomspreader missions, in the Archaeophage, Technophage Bloomspreader missions, the Bloomspreader, instead of 45, has 75 health. Which is why it is so much more important to take out Bloomspawns in this, because each Bloomspawn kill strips a layer of armor. Can you imagine this thing? Look at that, 75 freaking health. Can you imagine having to take off 10 more armor on top of that, 85 damage, when you don't even have tier 2 weapons and none of your characters are maxed level? And most of them are just halfway through max level. So yeah, this is another reason to avoid Technophage missions as much as possible until you have a Dreadnought. It is possible to do it, but the 2 times I did them, like, I was so stressed out and so overworked, and I was like, even right now, as you can see, I'm burning through a lot of resources trying to kill this because I have a lot of damage, but it's still not enough. I'm burning every attack with this guy as a force strike just to add extra damage. Look at this. Look at how crazy willpower I'm using. This is another reason why I wasn't trying to go. I was trying to conserve as much willpower in the previous era. You just have to conserve them constantly, otherwise you wouldn't have enough to take out 75 health monsters like this in late game. But yeah, fortunately, it worked out. And here's the last hit, and dead. And that was the last point, man. If you, 1 or 2 of those, and none of those were crits. I was shitting my pants when this was happening. None of those were crits. It was crazy. I don't know how I survived that. I got lucky there. If I got a couple of crits, it would have made my life a lot easier. But because I didn't get any, whew, I was really like, yeah, my butt cheeks were clenched tight doing that. Yeah, so that's how you do an Archaeotech mission, or Technophage mission, which rewards Archaeotech. I keep getting those confused. And if you want to try it on your own, then keep these things in mind. Do not try it without Gates of Infinity. Try my Rambo build, which is the most powerful build in the game. And make sure that all warp searches happen out of combat. You must not be engaged with anybody. If you get into warp search during combat, then you end up wasting too much willpower and too much resources having to fix it, so it's just not worth it. And make sure you have a decent pool of willpower and other resources saved when you finally reach the bloom spreader or whatever your final target is, so you can dump them all into finishing it. And finally, avoid unnecessary fights. If you can run around a patrol, if you spot a patrol and you can run around it, do it. If not, then only if you must, then engage it. And if you have to let go of a bunch of bloom pods or bloom seeds, fine. They're not worth the risk. And finally, just don't do them. If you don't have the Dreadnought, just avoid them. So yeah, those are my tips, and that's how you do Technophage missions, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.